The moment the cabin lights dimmed, Jacob Ward felt the first-class seat beneath him stiffen, almost as if the aircraft itself sensed the storm brewing. He had boarded quietly, dressed in a simple charcoal sweater and dark slacks, nothing about him suggesting he was the owner of the very airline he was flying on. He preferred it this way, invisible, observing, learning what his passengers experienced without polished speeches or stage tours. But today, anonymity came with a price. The flight attendant, Marissa, marched toward him with clipped steps and a frown that had curdled long before she reached his row. "Sir, I'm going to need you to move," she stated, her voice the kind that snapped like cold glass. Jacob looked up, calm but surprised. "Is there an issue?" he asked, but she was already leaning forward, her posture dripping with the certainty of someone who believed the world worked exactly the way she imagined. "Yes," she said, lowering her voice. "First class is reserved for premium passengers. We've had people trying to sneak up here all morning. I need to see your boarding pass." A few nearby passengers glanced over, interest sharpening like knives. The tension rippled, a hook twisting deeper with every second. Jacob offered his pass with a relaxed hand, but she didn't even check it. She simply folded her arms and said, "You don't look like you belong here. I'm not asking again." The words landed like a slap in the silent cabin. A businessman paused mid-sip. A mother held her child closer. Jacob's jaw tightened, but not with anger. Something heavier, deeper. Marissa had no idea what line she had just crossed. When Jacob finally spoke, his tone was soft, but it carried a weight that made even the air hesitate. "If you force me out of this seat, you may not like what comes next." She laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound that echoed down the aisle. The cabin watched, breath held as she reached for his arm, then froze when the captain's voice boomed from behind. "Marissa, step away from him." The captain's face had gone pale as he stared at Jacob's boarding pass, specifically at the name printed in bold. And in that single moment, everything shifted. If this story moved you, if it made you think, if it reminded you how quickly people judge others based on appearances, power, or assumptions, then I want to hear from you. Moments like these aren't just scenes on a plane. They happen in schools, workplaces, neighborhoods, and sometimes even in our own families. And change doesn't begin with a speech. It begins with awareness, with conversation, with the courage to call out disrespect before it becomes discrimination. So tell me, in the comments, have you ever witnessed someone being treated unfairly because of how they looked, or where others assumed they belonged? What did you do? What should have been done? Your voice matters more than you know. Every story shared helps someone else feel seen. Every comment pushes this message further. And every time you choose respect over judgment, you become part of the solution we desperately need. If you believe dignity shouldn't depend on appearance, status, or stereotypes, if you believe racism and bias must be challenged everywhere they show up, then make sure this video doesn't just end with you. Share it. Put it on your feed. Send it to a friend. Let this conversation reach someone who needs the reminder today. And if you want more powerful stories like this, stories that expose injustice, highlight courage, and turn real experiences into lessons the world needs, then hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. This channel isn't just entertainment. It's a movement, a space where voices matter, where truth matters, where your experiences help shape the next story we tell. Thank you for watching. Thank you for caring. And thank you for being part of a community that refuses to stay silent.
Before Marissa could speak, the captain swallowed hard and said, "Sir, Mr. Ward, I didn't know you were flying today." Whispers erupted instantly. Someone gasped. Another muttered, "Ward? As in the Ward group?" as in the airline's parent company, as in the man who wrote the checks, approved the aircraft purchases, and could end a career with the tap of a pen. Marissa's confidence drained from her face so quickly it was almost painful to watch. Her posture wilted, her hands trembling as she tried to stammer out something resembling an apology. But Jacob didn't raise his voice. He didn't insult her. The restraint alone stunned the cabin. "You judged me before you even looked at my pass," he said quietly, each word a surgical incision. "You assumed I didn't belong because of how I look, because I wasn't wearing a suit, because you believed your authority gave you the right to humiliate me in front of an entire cabin." A beat of silence, a hook tightening. Passengers leaned closer, phones subtly lifted. Jacob continued. "This airline was built on service, dignity, respect for every traveler. If this is how you treat people when no one is watching, then I need to reconsider how well I've trained my team." Marissa whispered, "Please, please don't report me." Jacob stood slowly, and the entire section seemed to exhale. "Come with me," he said. She followed, pale and shaking, as he led her to the galley where the rest of the crew watched in stunned silence. For a moment, Jacob simply observed her, measured her fear, her regret, her humanity. And then he made a decision that no one, not even the captain, expected. But the real twist came moments later when the intercom chimed and Jacob returned to his seat. The captain's voice filled the aircraft. "Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the disturbance. We'd like to recognize Mr. Jacob Ward, the Chief Executive Officer of Continental Aero, who is flying with us today for an inspection." A wave of realization moved through the cabin like electricity. Marissa covered her face. The passengers sat straighter. And Jacob? He closed his eyes, readying himself for what came next.